News on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chikudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning. Starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with TINUBU'S certificate controversy. 107 senators urge caution, rule of law as Keyamo, Atiku disagree. Right, it says that TINUBU'S trying to hide many forgeries, and that's coming from Atiku. Why Atiku can't prove forgery against TINUBU, and that's coming from Keyamo. We must exercise caution, observe principles of justice, and that's coming from senators. Also, APC flag of Kogi Guba campaign. You can see a photo story showing that on page 9. INEC worried over security situation in Imo, Bayelsa, Kogi. Stories above. CBN reduces cash mob by 82% to 150 billion naira. On page 8, Tinubu snubs on Niger coup leaders overtures for direct talks. Humanitarian Minister talks tough, 6 audit of N-Power program. You can see that on page 8. Tinubu Ogun Governor mounts a legal icon Chris Ogubanjo. And on page 25, Israeli-Palestine War. US moves nuclear aircraft carrier close to crisis zone. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with federal government targets 5 million jobs in 5 years for youths. The writer says better Edu scheme will be efficient. Ajakuta still to employ 500,000. Shetima firm 98% ready. And also on page 2, why banks should follow rules in granting loans to government. Stories above, governor seeks a dredging of a river Niger, Benue to halt flooding. Speaker sets performance benchmark for Lagos councils, and Jais Bank to raise a 5.4 billion naira in rights issue at NGX. All right, let's move straight to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with war in Middle East may spiral, push monthly petrol subsidy to 644.8 billion naira. Then on page 3, Atiku Keyamo trade words over Tinubu's Chicago certificate. Wema Bank rewards winners of Hackaholics 4.0 with over 50 million naira. 107 ex-senators urge caution on Tinubu certificate saga. Tinubu pledges of 500,000 jobs as Ajaokuta still nears completion. You can read that on page 3. Naira Deep pushes a loan book value of 8 banks to 30 trillion naira. Execute one project every quarter, Lagos Speaker tells the council chairman. And that's how we can take on the front page of the Guardian. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with CBN investigator probes bank over 1.27 trillion naira intervention funds. The writer says a 1.27 trillion naira anchor borrowers loan orders on disbursed in 5 banks. Special investigators to summon bank CEOs over intervention funds. And we can see a photo story showing Sanwo-Olu orders a demolition of markets built on drainage. On page 7, road crashes, deaths dropped by 1,118, says FRSC. And on page 28, pension in a 2.4 trillion naira deficit before reform. And that's coming from Pencom DG. Page 21, we have federal government to grill Empower consultants, plan 5 million jobs. Stories above, governor's labor begin talks over 35,000 naira wage award. On page 28, we have 1,000 killed as Israeli-Hamas conflict rages. US deploys munitions. And on page 8, lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have a JACPA. Federal government okays contract jobs for retired doctors. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining still today in the news on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Aliu Mohammed, CEO of Magnet Communications, also former editor of Daily Times and Concord Newspapers. Good to have you join us this morning, sir.
Good morning, Precious. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. All right, let's delve into the president's certificate controversy. And that has to be like the big story since last week. People have been talking about it. And about 107 non-serving senators of the APC have called for caution, respect for rule of law, and principle of justice in handling the president's certificate saga. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, from what I have read, the presidential candidate of the PDP, after the judgment of the tribunal. In fact, before the judgment of the tribunal, wrote several letters to the Chicago State University requesting for details on TINUBU'S certificate and all that. They have responded to it by issuing copies of the certificate to their council. But they seem not to be satisfied with what has been given to them, and they decided to probe further. And they said they have fresh evidence which they want to tender at the Supreme Court. I'm not a lawyer. And it's a matter of common sense. If you have fresh evidence that you have to tender, that means you are asking the Supreme Court to send the case back to the tribunal for a retrial, by which we would have exceeded the number of months stipulated by the Constitution within which election matters should be tried and done with. Without being a lawyer, you will know that that is incorrect, because what the Supreme Court is expected to do in their appeal is to look at the judgment of the justices of the court, the tribunal, whether they were right or they have had in their